You brought up the reverse Kimura. You play a little uniquely in that you don't close the figure four. And for me, it ended up being fantastic. It tied right into my side guard and clamp guard. But I digress. I think I'm getting into it too quickly here. Can you just describe the reverse Kimura for those that have no idea what this is?
For people who do jiu-jitsu, which I should be 100% of the people listening right now, Kimura shouldn't have to be described for you. It's a backwards bent shoulder lock that uses a figure four grip on the wrist, one on his wrist and one on your wrist, sort of lassoing around the arm. Now, picture the same thing, but instead of using the same side hand to their wrist before you go over their shoulder to connect it, use the cross side. So you're going to use your cross side arm to their wrist, and then you use your outside arm to go around the back side of their arm to connect. And because I think this is the thing, is it's a bit of a misnomer in that the word Kimura is not really correct. Even though it's a reverse version, sure, you're switching which arm goes where. But like to your point, I don't close my figure four on this one, and it's for a purpose. There's other people that do, and they have success with it, and they use it in their own systems. I'm not going to knock them by it by any means. Kit Dale was one of the first people I saw to use this. I saw other people before that using it, calling it a 2-on-1 grip, but I found that a little bit confusing because Marcelo already has a 2-on-1 grip that's a little different, that's a little more popular, so I didn't want to, mix vernacular in that way, so I kept with the reverse Kimura name. But when people think Kimura, they think they have to grab their wrist. But I found in my own experience, at least maybe it's just for my body type or whatever, if I didn't connect my wrist, I could maintain the grip for longer against people that were better at breaking it. Because I find, and maybe this will resonate with your own experience, is when you get a locked grip wrist on wrist, figure four from that reverse position, people will rotate the wrist out of it naturally. And it becomes hard to deal with that because you have a rigid structure. And the rigidity of that structure allows for him to break it with rotational pressure. Whereas if I have a fluid structure that is dynamic, I call it a dynamic tension grip, where I'm pushing the wrist grip sort of towards their belly, and I'm pulling my behind arm towards my belly. And between that push-pull tension, it becomes more like a spider grip in the tension sense, where I can follow as they put pressure into me, whether it's rotational or otherwise. My whole body actually moves with it naturally. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to try to rally with it. It just sort of moves dynamically in this fluid sense, and it becomes more like quicksand for them to get out of than it does like a hard structure.
As someone who's been on the receiving end of it also, you feel like you're off base. You've lost one of the legs of the table, so to speak, right? So there's that dead angle always. It's a problem. Can you describe the ranges as well? Because people need to be aware of this close, mid, and long range.
Okay, well, I like to break things down quasi-systematically. I don't necessarily roll like that, but I find it easier to learn like that when I can break things down in a pattern. And I noticed that certain techniques, as I started building out a plethora of different techniques based off of this starting position on this grip, where can I go with this? What are all my options? I started running through a Rolodex that I started adding to. And I realized that certain things were only viable from certain ranges and were not in others. So I can do this from close, I can do this from far, but I can't do vice versa. Otherwise, it's just the system won't work. And by the way, I did most of my work, especially in the preparation for that first tutorial, working from the mid to close range, because primarily, especially when you first start using reverse Kimura, primarily 90% of the time, you're going to find it turns into a back take, which is phenomenal. If you can take the back from the bottom, do it every time. I would never even skip that step. Always go to the back if you can go to the back from the bottom. If you can't, then you can start playing these other things, sweeps and submissions, etc. But as I started expanding on what else can I do here besides taking the back, I found that the ranges change everything. And also people who are in my class that got used to me basically taking advantage of them having an empty side on one side to get to their back, they started getting really good at, well, I can't get my wrist away because Drew's really good at keeping this, but what I can try to do is stay square with him. So as he tries to go to the side, I square up. He goes to the side, I square up. And we just do this sort of twist in a circle thing as I try to get around to the side. And especially if they put their leg up on one foot on that side I'm trying to go around to, it kind of builds a wall that makes it hard to get around to the side. But what it does is it adds me a platform that I can put my foot against and extend. So then it becomes much more like a spider guard where I've got a foot on the hip and I can push with my legs as I'm pulling with my arms, and it stretches them wide. So not only in the long distance range do you get different options, but it changes their entire body shape. So anybody, I like to call it purple belt range. Anybody who likes to play from bottom that can make somebody extend really wide, that's putting them into purple belt range, because it's just all triangles, sweeps, and arm bars from there. And you'll find it just opens that wide wide open because you're opening them wide open. There's holes all over the place to put hooks and legs through, and you can do all sorts of nasty things.
And what's wonderful about the reverse Kimura too is that the elbow is moving away from the body because there's that push pull tension, and their fist is going into almost their belly button. So as we all know, elbows tight is what we want, right, to remain strong and have proper alignment. And with that elbows flared out there, your opponent or training partner is much more compromised. And then, as you mentioned, with the Barata Plata, when you swing that arm over, man, it's right there. It's such a great transitional position as well to just so many other things. And you can get it everywhere, right? Close guard, like seated guard.
Close guard, seated guard, open guard, half guard. Yeah, as far as bottom positions, I mean, look, this is nothing revolutionary. I just systematized it a bit for my own purposes. There have been people that have been using this in Russian wrestling forever, and they call it a Russian tie. And it's similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. And there's things that you can do from standing from there, all sorts of things besides just back tapes, all sorts of takedowns as well. And I mean, who wouldn't want to be on the side of their opponent while they're either on their feet or on their back or whatever? Really, the only positions I found it's not very useful from is from the top. But I mean, that still is only like a third of the game. So if you can use these bottom techniques to get to the top, that's beneficial to everybody.